Hi, my name is Lisa Whitehouse, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to paint this poppy using watercolors. For a list of everything you need to get started, be sure to check out the video description below, and be sure to also hit the subscribe button if you want to see other videos just like this one. Let's get started. So we're going to start out by drawing out the poppy. So it's a fairly simple shape. You're just going to want to, with a pencil, just draw a very light line. Kind of like a fan shape, so wider on the top and then have it come down narrower. And you don't need to get too hung up on the shape at this point, because when we add the color we're going to kind of adjust it. Then just draw a stem and then another little petal here, maybe here, just to get a loose idea of where it's going to end up. So I'm going to be using a couple of colors here. I have a red and a pink and a yellow that I'm going to have up here. I might even throw in a little orange, but we'll see as we go along. So with wet and wet technique, I always like to lay down the water first. So I'm going to very loosely, with a angled brush, this is called a dagger brush. I like to use it a lot because it gives me a lot of control. I'm just gonna add water to the whole page, and I'm not being very careful about where it goes. If there's spaces that have no water, that's okay. If it drips on the page, that's okay. Because this first coat, really, I'm just trying to get some red down. And I'm going outside of the lines. I'm not being careful to get inside the lines. So then I'm gonna put a bit of a red on the brush, and I'm just loosely going to fill in where I want the red to go. And it's gonna do its own thing. It's gonna bleed outside where the shape is because I put water there. But that's what we're wanting. So right now it's gonna have a tendency to look a little bit messy, and that's okay. I'm gonna grab a little pink here. I'm gonna toss in a little bit of pink up here. And it's gonna tend to go and fill in all of the spaces that you've gotten wet. You can help it along. And then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow over here. And then as it's drying, I'm gonna actually get a little bit more red right at the base. And lift that up. And then go back and add some more red in at the base. So I do have a bit more water on the page than I'd like, and the way I would deal with that is just using a dry brush. I'm gonna lift out a little bit of the water. So I go back and forth between my paper towel and my painting to just lift out a little bit of the color and a little bit of the water. So if you have too much water on the page, it's gonna take a really long time to dry, and because I'm just doing this in a sketchbook, it's also going to warp the page quite a bit. So now I'm just using a little bit of black, and I'm just gonna dab this right at the base. I'm gonna go back and add more to this base again, but this is just getting a little bit down. This is all about getting the first layer where I want it to be. I'm I'm just gonna do the stem while I'm waiting for this to dry. And for the stem, I'm just gonna draw a little green line. Bring that black down into it a little bit. And I'll probably go over it another time, but I'm gonna add a little bit of the darker green. I have 2 shades of green. If you only have 1, that's okay. So this is a good time to let this stage dry. I just let it air dry and then I'll come back to it and add another coat. So now that the first coat has had time to dry, it's time to go back in and add a second coat. So for the second coat, you're gonna be adding water, clear water over top again. So I'm gonna start with the top petal. And now I'm trying to really define the 2 petals. So for the one behind, I'm gonna go in and add clear water. And then along the bottom of it, I'm just gonna take the tip of the brush, and where the water begins and ends, I'm going to go in with some red again. And you'll notice in some places it bleeds and some it doesn't. So I have a little bit too much of that happening there. So what I'm gonna do is take a clear brush and just massage some of those lines and blur them out a bit. So I was just using a clean brush is how I did that. And then I'm gonna actually bring in a few down into the poppy. And so while it's still wet, basically I'm just running along. Very uneven. There's no rhyme or reason to where I pull them down. And this will make more sense as I go. And so in order to make that a little less perfect, I'm going to take some clear water and a tiny bit of red and just add some splatters here. And that just helps break up how perfect that looks. So I'm gonna add a little bit of pink here. And if you put clear water, then the paint will bleed very randomly, and I like that. So I'm really liking the way that's happening right now. I feel like right here it could use a tiny bit of yellow just to tie it in with what's happening over here. Just a tiny little bit. So that's all I would do for that background. Now we're gonna add a little bit of dimension here. So I'm not gonna go all the way up here. I'm actually gonna stick towards the bottom because I want the bottom to be quite a bit more red than the top. So I'm just adding clear water up till about 3/4 of the way. And then I'm gonna drop in some more red. And I'm gonna use lines as well. And some of these lines will bleed in. And these are really gonna lighten as they dry too, keep that in mind. And then I'm going to take a clear brush and just blur a few of them because I don't want anything to look too perfect on this. This is all about keeping it loose. And sometimes with loose, that means letting it go and do its own thing. And sometimes you're actually telling it what to do. And so in a case like this, I'll add some clear water and just butt up to that part here. So I'm telling it where to go. Now I'm going to take some pink and drop that in here too. And then this is another time where I would add some splatters, some very light red ones. And here's some clear water here, just to tell the red where to go to. I'm always kind of moving around the painting, adding more, adding less. So I'm gonna go in and darken this green just a tiny bit. And feel free to pause it at any point if you're finding I'm getting a little bit ahead. So I just darkened the green Now I'm going to take a bit of green on my wide angle brush and just add some green splatters. Maybe I'll throw one up here. So we're going to let this dry now, and then we're going to work on adding the base. All right, so we're almost done. We're going to add in the stem now. So I had added black before, but now we're just going to go over that with more black. And I'm not doing water first for this. I'm just adding some little lines. And then I'm gonna take these lines, I'm actually gonna take them very lightly and loosely down the stem. And so I'm not worrying about staying perfect and keeping it solid. I actually want it less solid. I'm going to darken this again. And then what I'm going to do is go in and add some more red. So this is once again adding lines. And I keep my brush strokes very papery. So that what I mean by that is I let the brush sort of bounce off the page. Poppies are so delicate. I really want to convey that in the brush strokes. So using a very fine brush, just going in, darkening some, adding a bit more detail in some places. I find having that contrast of darker red in certain places really helps. So I feel like it's almost at a place where I'm happy with it. Add in a tiny bit of yellow up here. So I think that looks pretty good. I think just doing a few more splatters with a darker red over top of the lighter red ones is gonna look nice. Some on the poppy itself. And I think we can call that done. I'm just gonna go ahead and sign it. So if you had fun painting along with me, be sure to hit the like button and hit subscribe if you wanna be notified when I release other videos just like this one. And if you don't mind letting me know in the comments what you wanna see me paint next, it always inspires me to see you guys making requests. I love to know what you guys want to see me paint. Thank you so much and have a great day.